All right, and we're back. This is episode number 7, Something to Talk About podcast. And we have a good one that we're going to talk about today. Really just kind of popped up the past couple of days when we were kind of talking about what we wanted to go into next time.
It's getting to be that time of year when the kids are starting to get into baseball and kind of wrapping up baseball.
Yep. Everybody's done with basketball now. March, typically baseball starts and it'll go till, well, it just depends on who you are. Sometimes it can go to August, but a lot of people it'll go till June, July, and then typically baseball season's getting over with. But
Have some fall ball, but not a lot of teams do that anymore.
yeah, and I kind of see it as, if that is something that you want to do. I mean, I'm a firm believer that you should play multiple sports.
Oh, for
because
sure.
I think that, and this is my opinion, and I think a lot of people would probably agree that, playing other sports can help you in that sport. Like,
Oh, for sure.
if you're a baseball player and you play basketball is a lot more lateral movement, or even football, and that's only going to make you that much of a better athlete, and it's getting your limbs right and just the way that your body can move. There's a lot of benefits to it. But, yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into the world of travel baseball, especially for younger kids, and kind of how crazy that world has gotten since, my time growing up in it.
Same with me, too. And, I mean, now, I have a 12-year-old son who plays travel baseball, has for a long time, and you just don't – there's not really much options out there anymore left. Like, you almost have to do travel baseball if you're going to play baseball around here.
Yeah, well, and, there used to be a league that they call the Corey League. Now it's got converted into like a little league. Which there's really not a whole lot of difference. It's just an organization is the only thing that's different. But now it's getting...
With the Little League, you can apply and go on and play like state and stuff.
Well, yeah, you have that aspect as well. But now there's a lot of teams that are getting away, because we're from a very small rural area, and a lot of the teams, you have... age group, you have a team, each age group from each individual small town, if they can fill a team. And now it's kind of getting to where a lot of people are wanting to get out and play in more places. Where, I mean, some kids, it is nice to get kind of out of your area to realize the kind of talent away from your area, because being in a small area like we are, it's you don't get to see. I mean, who all the good kids are in the area, but you pack them together and you go play like a St. Louis team or a bigger city. It's a different ball game.
You start
out there.
figuring out things real quick about where you stand. I mean, like, we had a pretty solid group, and now it's gotten to the point where our top guys have went out and done travel baseball, which they probably are good enough to do. But then you got all the other guys left, and we're such a rural, small area, there's not enough for Corey League anymore. So, like, at our age division, they didn't even have Corey League this year. So you don't really have a lot of other options other than to do travel baseball or go play Corey League for some other town.
Yeah, or go to, I mean, just like you said, go to a neighboring town to try to get on that group. But they're still, in the Little League, I don't know the process. I'm guessing there's still a draft. So, like, a lot of these towns, they'll have a draft and they'll select a certain amount of... I know it's always been the thing that if your kid was good and you wanted to be on a certain team, your dad had to coach, so you automatically get on that team. So, I mean, there's still teams that try to stack themselves anyways, even in Corey League, when it's not really too competitive, I would say. But, I mean, you're still getting the opportunity to play.
Yeah, well, even, like, for us... Bowling Green is our closest kind of bigger town. And when I was a kid and forever I can remember, they'd have 3 or 4 teams at every age division. And, like, for our age division last year, they had 1 team, and that was it. And I know a couple of those boys that went travel baseball, so I don't even know if they're going to have a team, period, this year for Corey League.
And it was the same way with me growing up. There was always multiple teams in Bowling Green. I mean, even, like Louisiana, a lot of these other, I mean, they've always had kind of multiple teams, but I think with the progression of the way this travel baseball is going, where you can go get outside of your area and go play in a lot of these tournaments and kind of really see what else is out there. I think that's been a hindering effect on the local league.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I know, like, they didn't even know if they were going to be able to have our local Corey League at all for any age division. And then some people kind of got together and saved it kind of at the last minute. But yeah, it's almost gone. There's not much of it left, and it's sad because that's how we grew up playing that, And not every kid is good enough to go play travel baseball. So you're just having less and less kids throughout time that are playing.
And I think what it is, some of it has to do with the fact that, a lot of kids, growing up, we didn't have anything else to do. Mm-hmm. We wanted to go play baseball with our friends and do all that. We didn't want to be in the house all summer. So baseball was like a getaway to kind of get out and go hang out with your friends and also compete in a sport, because if you're in a sport and you're not really, and you kind of show up with a mindset that, don't really care if you win, that doesn't really set too well with me.
Well, the thing I hate seeing about like the Corey League going downhill is the whole point of sports for the youth is to learn important skills for when they become adults, when they start in the workplace. It teaches you discipline and all kinds of good things. How many of these kids around here are ever going to play college baseball?
Very few.
Very, very few. So if there's less kids playing, that means there's less kids that are learning these important skills that sports can teach you.
I mean, just like you said, accountability is one of them. Handling situations. With pressure. There's so many life lessons you can learn from, and that's any sport.
Yeah.
There's so many life lessons that you do learn, and I just looked up because we were talking about how a lot of the teams weren't able to fill, and I was kind of thinking, with technology, and I hate to say it, but a lot of the video games, I was wondering if there was just a decline in the amount of kids that wanted to participate in sports, which I kind of thought there would be. But just a quick Google search here, there's a report showing that there's at least a 14% decrease with kids between the ages of 6 and 12, and that's baseball and softball included. So there's a 14% decrease in the amount of kids that are actually participating in. And this is just for baseball.
That's massive.
That's a lot.
That's a big percentage when you think about like a nationwide kind of deal. That's huge. That definitely can play a bad effect on our the whole society.
For sure. But I also look at it at, okay, maybe a kid tried out and played a couple years, didn't really like it, but say they like to run track or, there's so much more one sport focused in today's world than ever before. Mm-hmm. If your kid is good at a sport, and a lot of it has to do with the parents.
For sure.
That, if they're good at a sport, let's just focus on that one because we may have the next Albert Pujols. It's a lot of that stuff that's going on right now, and
everybody thinks their kid's a star.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, everybody thinks that their kid's going to be in the pros one of these days. I'm not going to say everyone, but most people, even if they care to admit it or not, they have the thought process that if I just make him or her focus on this one sport and I put all this money into it, that they are going to be an Olympic gold medalist one of these days and whatever they're going to do. And that's gymnastics, everything. And granted, that may work for some people, but that's not everybody. That's not going to work. The amount of kids now that are probably getting burnt out because their parents are pushing one sport on them, I would hate to see the number.
It's massive.
And it just ruins the whole experience.
It's easy to get wrapped up in it too.
It is.
Because you start going to these things, and I've experienced it, and you start going to these things and these people start building your kids up, and then, you kind of start having a little bit more of a thought of maybe they can play in college or pro level. And then it's a lot of times these organizations that are just wanting your money.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And I think that is a big driving factor of it is the amount of money up front that parents have to put into these different leagues for their kids to participate in. And, you know, there's studies out there that show, you know, parents are getting financially strained because they're paying so much for, I mean, we're not even getting into lessons and stuff and how much that can cost. You know, these different leagues, I know on one of the studies it showed that on average, parents just in youth baseball in today, I think it was in 2024, and this has to do with travel, this has to do with, you know, obviously food and, you know, all the equipment that you buy and all the expenses to get on a team. It's between $1,000 to $3,000 a summer.
Yeah. So I did a little Chat GPT average type deal, and for just now this is nationwide. Team fees average is $2,000. Tournaments, $100 a tournament. Usually play 8 or so tournaments. Uniforms, private lessons. You know, you're gonna have so many lessons. All the hotels when you're traveling all over the place doing this. Travel expenses, gas, flights, all that stuff. So all that combined average is $7,940 nationwide.
Holy cow.
I mean, that is your travel and everything included. But damn near $8,000 is what it's costing you to play travel baseball nowadays. Average
summer
in America.
And right now, with the economy, if the economy keeps going the way that it is, it's only going to keep getting more and more expensive.
I figured up, so for our area, you know, my son's on a decent team for the area, pretty good team. And just my expenses this year are going to be somewhere around $5,000. That doesn't count like the driving him back and forth to practices and stuff, because that stuff adds up quick too.
And it ain't like you can use all this stuff as a tax write-off either. I mean,
it's just straight.
This is straight out of the account,
So
and
that's not any equipment either. I didn't figure any new bats or gloves or any of that stuff on. That's just throw the baseball. What it's going to cost us is around $5,000.
Isn't it kind of insane when you break it down like that?
It is crazy
how much money is involved in it, and I think it has a lot to do with, you know, the parents. And we're going to get into this conversation here in just a little bit, but you know, if you're a parent and you spend that much money up front, and you know that you're going to have to budget about that much, and you show up to a tournament and your kid isn't getting the same playing time as everybody else, a lot of parents are going to be pissed about that.
Yeah, you're not going to spend $5,000 to watch kids sit on the bench.
I mean, and if you look at it from a financial point, I mean, they do have I guess, kind of a reason to maybe be a little pissy about it.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's $5,000. That's a lot of mortgage payments, depending on where you live.
A lot of times it's just these organizations that are sucking your money out of you.
Yep.
Because every one of them's got, you know, A team, B team, you know, on down the list. And, you know, a lot of these kids that are playing travel baseball should be playing Corey League for free.
Yes.
Or, you know, for very, very minimal. It's not free, but basically.
But that's what it's coming down to. There's an obsession with the travel ball. Like, it's got its own stereotype. I mean, you see TikToks and videos of it all the time, like travel ball moms and them out there hooping and hollering, and then travel ball dads that are pissed off, yelling, "You're shitting me!" With
Get
all
your
this.
glove down.
Yep. And it obviously, I don't have any kids, but I grew up kind of in the system with playing travel ball over, you know, several years and playing in a lot of different cool places. But it just seems like it's so much more hectic now than what it was, let's say, 15, 20 years ago. It's absolutely insane what is going on and how much money is involved in this. That's why you see all these new sports complexes opening up everywhere.
Yeah. It's turned from a hobby into a lifestyle. That's what it is.
Yep.
Now, this is a lot of people's whole identity is the travel baseball stuff. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk shit on it because we do it. You know, we've been doing the travel baseball thing for a while now.
But whether you don't have any other option, if your kid wants to play, you got to get on a travel baseball team.
Basically.
Because it's getting, well, just like we were talking about, if he stayed in Little League, there's not even a team in your town that you wouldn't even have a team.
No, we would have had to go into some different town. You could have done that. I mean, that is an option. But if your kid's any good, I will say, like for us, we play. Last time we played Corey League, it was basically a joke. Like he wasn't learning a thing there, and he was almost miserable. So you do kind of. I understand why there is travel ball, and there's a lot of good perks to it too. The kids get to see a lot of different areas and meet new people, and learn discipline maybe at a higher level, and taking something seriously, and hard work turns into success. That kind of stuff. It does teach them, so it does do some good stuff, but it's gotten way out of hand. That's for sure.
I think I agree with that. The travel ball is, if you can afford it and you can swing it, you're going to get more out of it most of the time than playing in like a rec league.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are going to get more out of it because if whatever organization you're playing for is doing what they should be doing, they should know more than a majority of dads, moms, everybody about the game of baseball and how they can teach a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid good fundamentals to then better themselves and progress them to get better. Each practice, each game, they're the coaches on those teams, I would say 99% of them, maybe not 99, but I would say a majority of them know how to get the most out of your kid.
Yeah, and they are better. I will say that. Sports, especially even since I was a kid, like, we didn't train like these kids do nowadays.
Yeah.
And all year long,
There
a lot of
wasn't,
times.
you didn't have access to the
No,
training facilities like kids
it just
have
wasn't
nowadays.
even possible. And people didn't have the same mindset about it like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't do it, your kid's falling behind.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost feel like you have to do it.
Do you feel like there's a sense of like a pressure like on a parent that, just like you said, your kid may be falling. Do you feel like there is a little bit of pressure as like parents that, if your kid wants to eventually play varsity baseball in high school, this is what we have to do?
Oh, it's for sure there. And it's not just the pressure of, hey, we got to get better all the time. It's the pressure of, I know several kids in our area that have tried that are good kids and not bad baseball players, but they went and tried out for all these teams and they don't make the teams. And then what that does mentally to the kids is just, it can make them fall out of love with the game, make them feel like they're not adequate, and all kinds of, bad psychological problems it can cause too.
Yeah, so as a parent, when something like that does happen, especially when kids are 8, 9, 10 years old, like you said, that's going to affect them mentally, emotionally, everything. Because let's say they have one of their friends that makes the team or a couple of their friends that makes the team, and they were planning on playing with them that summer. And then what do you do as a parent? How do you get your kid to cope with that, where we just aren't going to be able to play for them?
Yeah.
There's so much pressure on kids nowadays, too.
For sure. And I was going to go over some of that stuff later. I talked to my son. He kind of told me his feelings about some of it.
Oh,
But
that'd be a great perspective.
yeah. So, I think that with the travel thing has just gotten too out of hand. I wish that we could grow the local baseball again and have that play more of effect, and just your top tier guys play travel baseball, because there is a need for it. It is productive in some ways to certain players.
And that's the way it did used to be.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be, in my opinion.
The local leagues and stuff were kind of for the people who, or the kids that, wanted to hang out, but it was always competitive. Like the past 5, 6, 7 years that I've kind of went and watched some of the rec league, I just don't ever remember it being so uncompetitive and so lopsided.
It is awful.
I mean, even in like your local like basketball, I mean, this is all sports.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing in an area, there's going to be 1 or 2 teams that are just dominating everybody else. I mean, I'd say it's probably that way just about anywhere you go, but I just don't ever remember it being so
Do you think that
uncompetitive.
Do you think that there's like certain groups of kids in certain areas that just maybe got a little bit of extra talent, and then those are the kids that have went out there and their parents have pushed them to put a lot of effort into it. So they've just along the years have grown farther and farther apart from their competition.
Yes, I obviously think that, or I'm a firm believer in, a kid is only going to be as good as the kind of support he gets from his house. And whenever I say the kind of support, that means if you have a bad game, you better be able to take, that was pretty bad.
That
was pretty
home.
bad, son, or that was pretty bad, daughter.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, because the constructive criticism that is lost so much in today's society where we stand right now is what makes people in those certain, like, okay, just say I worked at Walmart and I stocked the shelf wrong, and my manager comes up and says, "What are we doing stocking this wrong? I've already told you this. What am I going to do? Just quit and go on and find a different job?" But there's people like that in today's society. And whenever we talk about, what sports can teach you moving forward as a grown-up, that's one of those life lessons that you start at a young age learning to be and held accountable.
Exactly.
That's only going to make you a better person.
And if we have less and less kids that are doing that every year, 14% less, what's that doing to our society as a whole?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my son plays travel baseball and travel basketball, so I don't, I can't sit here and talk shit on it because I do it and I love it. And I've coached both of them since he was little bitty. So like it is kind of our lifestyle. So I can't sit here and say, why would you do that? Because I do it. So,
Yeah.
But you just don't have a lot of choice. And, my son has some talent. He's not terrible by no means. So, he especially in baseball, he does kind of need to get out a little bit, but you get sucked into it and it gets so serious.
Oh, it's so serious. There is so much tension.
Sports are the world's worst of causing, issues that should not happen. Because at the end of the day, the games don't mean shit. They don't mean nothing at the end of the day. But how many fights have you seen at these little league parks and people getting kicked out, arguing with the refs? And it happens all. I mean, I've done it. I've never been kicked out, but I've been in a couple arguments. But
yeah,
it's so easy to get sucked into that.
I went and watched one of your all's tournaments last year at the Lake of the Ozarks. I was down there for a work meeting. I just happened to work out at the right time. There was so much tension on, in the stands. Like during some of these games, you could cut it with a butter knife. I mean, there was just people just ready to explode. And I'll tell you a personal story. I helped coach a basketball team one year. They were, I'm wanting to say second, third grade. We went to a tournament and there was a lot that happened in the game, but this is a second or third grade tournament. You got high school kids and you got people donating their time. They're not getting paid to be there.
Nothing.
And I witnessed, this is no shit. I witnessed after the game, there was a bad call at the end of the game that I didn't necessarily agree with, and we lost the championship. I witnessed parents come out on the center of the court and dirty cuss this woman who was refereeing.
It happens every day.
I mean, dirty cussed her. I was embarrassed. I left. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just left. I was highly embarrassed. And, I mean, safe to say we didn't get an invite back next year. I mean, I can't even fathom being a parent or aunt, uncle. It's not just parents. Aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma, doing something like that. Like it's
I think with the travel baseball, and especially what has been emphasized the most is, we put a lot of time in practices. For our travel team, we just went on a run where my son played baseball for a year straight without a break. Between fall ball and training, he didn't have a break for a year straight. And, 9 months out of the year, we were practicing twice a week and then games on the weekends and stuff. So it was just like nonstop. And you put all that practice into that, and you're these parents running your kids back and forth to practice, you put all this effort into it, and then it's like you go out there and you don't have success, and that's when you do have that tension of like,
Yep.
I've paid all this money, all this time, what are we doing?
Yep.
Why aren't the coaches having this player here? Or everybody's got their own opinion on what would work best. The coaches are just trying to do their best they can.
Yep.
But when you put that much time and energy into something, you want to see results, and if you don't, then that's when you have the problems. And not everybody's going to win. You know, you have 10, 12 teams show up to a tournament. Only one team's going to walk away from there and feel great about themselves.
Yep.
So you have 11 other teams that are like, what do we need to do? Why ain't we doing this? Why is your kid pitching? Your kid should be playing left field or nonstop. Hear this stuff all the time.
Yeah. And it's, you have the coaches, you try to be on the same page as the coaches, if you're coaching, and there's always multiple coaches nowadays. But yes, it's the parents in the stands that are talking about it, because even so, like that is one thing that is nice on the travel ball. If you go somewhere and you're with an organization that's been around for a while, and they have coaches that have been coaching in the system, a lot of them, there's a lot of them that played really high level high school and potentially college baseball. So if you didn't play a high level high school or college baseball, you're going to have a different opinion on what those coaches are doing compared to like a local rec league, like just volunteering. Because and that is one thing that I do like about the travel baseball. Whenever you start getting into some higher level, especially when you get to USSSA and you're doing 10U, 11U, 12U, those guys know what the hell they're talking about. So a majority of the time, the parents aren't going to have too much to say, because, how are you going to argue? That'd be like arguing with Tiger Woods about how I need to swing my golf club.
Yeah.
You just aren't going to do it.
Yeah. I will say I have been really lucky. The kids that we've got to coach and the parents that we've had coaching, and just, that might just be our local area, but we've had tons of support, and the parents have been great. The kids have been outstanding, way better than we could have hoped for. So we were very lucky and very fortunate. But when you go to these tournaments around, you see a lot of it. And even with us being lucky and fortunate, we still had our struggles, with, disappointment with not having as much success as we would like to. Sure, we can kick everybody's ass around here, but you go down to St. Louis and it's just not, it's not possible.
It's a different game when you get out of your area. That's for sure. And, especially like at that tournament at the Lake of the Ozarks, granted, I don't think the team played to its full potential.
It's probably the worst tournament I ever remember us playing in all of our years.
But you get to see a lot of different talent. I remember, so I don't know how I want to get into this. I remember one of the coolest experiences that I had growing up playing travel ball was we were in a tournament to like qualify for the national tournament. Not the College World Series, or not college, but not the Little League World Series, but it was a tournament in Shawnee Mission Park, Kansas, where teams from all over came. There was a team that came in from Oakland who was sponsored by the A's, and they came in on a fucking charter bus. They all got out, and they all grabbed their bags. And I remember one of the coaches was like, they put their pants on the same way you do, boys, and we went out and beat them. It was one of the coolest experiences ever, but you learn so much whenever you go to other areas, whether it's, you can go states away, but, people down in Florida, they get to play all year round. They get to be on a field all year round. Mm-hmm. Whenever you start playing some teams like that, you're really like, holy shit, there's a reason why a lot of the good baseball players come from down south, because they do have more opportunity. And it's like that in golf too. If you're down there, you get to play golf year round. Up here, you get 4 or 5 months, and
there's only so much you can do in these training facilities.
Yep.
You still got to get out there and play the games, and if you're not playing games, it's hard to get a lot better.
If you're taking ground balls on pavement and with turf on top of it, that is way different than getting out on the field and taking ground balls whenever there's some rock in there that you might eat one.
For sure, yeah.
The bad hops, that's what makes you, that gives you character.
Yeah. That's when technique matters.
Yeah,
is-
that's right.
is that kind of stuff.
That's right. But yeah, the little league baseball, and I love it. I mean, if I had a kid, I've had talks with you. When I have kids, hopefully one of these days, I'm going to be big into it too. But I'm going to try to be the parent that isn't in the middle of everything. You know, I would rather somebody else coach my kid and just do it that way.
No, it is so much. Well, I don't mean so much, but and everybody's different. But I have loved coaching. Like I have it. I've got more joy out of that than about anything. Like it has been a big passion of mine since I started when Colt was little. And it's just like he's had some success and he's turned into a pretty good athlete, basketball and baseball. And it's like you see him develop over the years and all this time that we've put into it. And he sees himself getting better. And we've kind of done that together where a lot of parents don't have that. And I feel like it's made a little bit more of like, I wouldn't say a bond, but just a connection there that I don't think you would get if your kids are, if you're not coaching. So you're going to want that.
Not if they get like on a travel team.
I would say if you have a group of kids like we had, you'll like it.
And that's what it's coming down to is there's so many kids. I mean, all the kids are great, but you can tell pretty quick by which kids are coachable and what. I mean, you go up and recommend something to a kid, you're going to tell pretty quick if they have that very coachable trait. And that's starting to get hard to find.
And I was kind of wanted to hit on this. This was a point I kind of thought of. I think that there's such this perception today in society that these kids are just like lazy and nobody wants to do anything and they're socially awkward and you can't be hard on a kid anymore, they give up and all this stuff. And maybe it's just the group that we had, or it's not even the group we had, it's the kids we've played against and stuff. I have been highly impressed with the effort, with the sportsmanship, with the time that these kids are willing to put in. These kids, the kids that I've coached, they are just as driven as kids probably have ever been. These kids want to get better and they're not afraid to go in there and work for it. It's been a kind of a different eye-opening thing to me because I do see the and it's not that you put it up, like they care about it. Like this is serious to them and they want to get better and they want to win. That's going to translate over into careers one day.
For sure. And as a coach, that's exactly what you want. Even as a parent, that's exactly how you want your kid to be.
Maybe we just got lucky and had a great group, but it's not just our team. I see it in all the tournaments and stuff we go to too. Baseball is a little bit different than basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You see a little bit more of that whining, kind of stuff in baseball because I do think it's more kids and like you're saying with the travel team aspect of it, most everybody's doing that nowadays. So that is kind of the whole sample size to where, travel basketball is more of a smaller, more serious type people. But I can't say enough about the kids that I've been able to coach and the ones that I've been around have been just as driven, hardworking, listen to you. We've had very, very minimal problems.
Well, and you all practice like in the wintertime. Kids were showing up in the wintertime to get work in. I mean, the effort factor was never an issue.
No, and from the parents too. I mean, they had to bring them there and they put the effort in too. I think that this thought that kids nowadays are lazy and all this stuff, I think that's kind of a myth. I'm not saying there ain't some of it, but that stuff was probably there before too.
Well, I would say
I think
that could be true.
I think the laziness
in a nowadays,
from kids, I think is parent driven.
Not
kid driven.
A lot of video games being played.
It's allowed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. I think that stuff is parent driven.
I remember back when I was working construction, there was a guy that he had some sort of what did he do? Appliance. He installed appliance like heating, cooling, and all the appliances and stuff. and he had said that he just had to get rid of one of his employees who was I think he was home for the Christmas break. He was in college, and apparently the kid had been really messing up a lot. And the guy's comment was, "Yeah, he wasn't worth a shit at working, but I'm sure he could play one hell of a game of Nintendo." Of course, we're all dying laughing, but
It's true.
he's just trying to make some money. Like, not everybody's gonna be that, but yeah, I think there is a perception from like the older generation that if you play video games at all, you're just lazy.
Yeah.
And that is not at all always true.
My son plays video games, and I think a little bit of it is a good thing. He gets on there late at night after dark. If it's daylight outside, he's usually outside doing something. But he gets on there, and he's got 5 or 6 buddies that would be on there playing games at the same time. It's just like dudes hanging out and having fun.
Yep.
I mean, we would be doing the same stuff if it was available to us when we were kids.
100% we would have. Every now and again we'll fire something up. I mean, I haven't played in a while, but fire up the Call of Duty or Rocket League, whatever it is. But yeah, I just think that the issue that a lot of people have with how kids are structured these days, it's they can't comprehend that it's a lot more technology driven. And even though they do have access to technology that we didn't have growing up, it doesn't mean that if they go play a sport, they're going to be completely just lazy. Like, they're just going to kind of huff and puff around and not do anything. However, there are some kids that do, and I do think it comes from the household, depending on if they're held accountable at home, at school, if they're held accountable, or if they just get by with everything. That's just how they're going to be. Mm-hmm. And that's how they're going to be when they grow up, unless they, figure it out.
Yeah, you have to, with the travel baseball thing and stuff, we were talking about, pushing your kids too much and the parents, causing a lot of it. But there has to be some of that. Because who wants to get up and go to work tomorrow? Very, very few people.
Yep.
Nobody wants to do that shit. It's something you got to do. So your kids aren't just going to do it on their own. You got to push them a little bit. There's definitely a limit. You don't want them to fall out of love with the game or whatever they're doing.
And kids can reach that where I'm done with it.
There's probably more burnout right now in sports than there's probably ever been.
100%. And I would say that the burnout aspect is largely due to pushing kids to only play one individual sport. Yeah. I would say that's where it's at. Because if you have a break sport, like, when baseball season was over, I was always ready for it to be over, because then the next sport's coming along. Whenever basketball season, you always had something else to look forward to. It wasn't just one thing all the time.
You got tired of playing basketball?
Every now and again I would.
Oh, come on.
Every now and again I would. But, yeah, Aaron Judge, a perfect example. Aaron Judge is center fielder for the New York Yankees. He is arguably one of the best hitters to ever step on a baseball field. He was all-state in not only baseball and basketball, but he was also an all-state, I think, tight end for the football team in high school. I mean, granted, he's a freak of nature. I mean, he's 6'8" or 9", and he could probably have done anything in any sport that he wanted to, but he can hit the shit out of the baseball. Speaking of that, we'll kind of get back to the Little League thing, but what do you think is the easiest sport to translate to other sports? Do you think it's easier? Well, let's throw out a scenario. Do you think it's easier for a baseball player to play basketball or a football player to play basketball?
I think I would say a baseball player.
To play basketball?
To play basketball. Just because of size. There's not like a certain size in baseball you have to be great. I mean, in basketball, to be a good player, size is a big, big issue. And football, same way. So
I've always had arguments with people.
I would say baseball is arguably the most skilled.
I would say, as far as athleticism, no. But as far as hand-eye coordination
Yes.
and all that, it is by far better or harder to do than the other sports. I've always said that it would be easier for, and I hope people comment and argue with me. I always thought it would be easier for a baseball player to translate to a different sport than a basketball or a football player to baseball.
Probably. I think a baseball player is, they're all around athletes. That's probably true.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, but holy
It's
shit.
pretty unhittable.
And then you got people throwing over 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Your reaction time to hitting a baseball. I mean, dude, you look at, I don't know if you ever seen the video of LeBron James, who is arguably the most athletic and God-given that any athlete has ever had. Have you ever seen him swing a golf club? Dude, it is absolutely awful.
Horrible.
This dude can do anything he wants to on a basketball court, a football field, anything and everything. But it's just, I don't know what it is about swinging a bat or a golf club that it's just so hard for a lot of people.
It's definitely different because, like, he is one of the strongest, fastest, jump the highest, he can one of the best ever. But you can't hold a bat and swing it. It is a different skill.
It is, and that's what I show a lot of people. Like, go watch a lot of these guys swing a golf club.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they look like they aren't athletic at all.
Yeah.
Because they're so athletic, their golf swing looks like a 1-year-old that just grabbed a golf club and is trying to swing it, like damn near falling down.
For sure.
Looking absolutely awful.
At least a baseball player, when they do hit a golf ball, they can usually hit it far. It's not usually
Have
a
you
great
seen Mike
swing,
Trout
but
at Top Golf? Oh my Lord! A couple years ago, he
hitting it
posted
out of
a
the
video-
net.
Oh, hitting it over the net by far. I mean, just smashing it. Dude, it's insane. But yeah, it whenever you break it down and watch other athletes or other, you have baseball, basketball, football players, and I'm just talking about them individually. Like, none of them are going to get in a swimming pool and outrace Michael Phelps or a woman outracing Katie Ledecky. There's just no way. I mean, they all have their own different niches and how a body can work, but it's just so amazing to me how much or how athletic these people are, and you put a golf club in their hand. Like, I was watching, like, Dwayne Wade. He was one of the most. He's got the record for dunks by a guard in the NBA. And I've been kind of following his golf game on YouTube. He posted a video with Tiger Woods, and Tiger Woods trying to help him out. His golf swing was absolutely awful. We'll not even get into Charles Barkley because I don't really consider him athletic, but his golf swing is absolutely awful. He's not athletic now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, he was a beast. But I just don't understand how you can be so good at something and then you grab something and it's just so bad.
Yeah, you immediately think basketball, football, and you think of strength and hand-eye coordination and
Because they've all got it.
shooting, passing, throwing, and then you do see them swing a baseball bat or a golf club, and it's like there's no athletic look to it at all. Yep. Why can you have one thing but you can't have the other? It's weird.
It is. I mean, and they look silly doing it. I mean, granted, there's anomalies. Like, Steph Curry is a really good golfer, but
he'd be really good at everything, though.
For sure. And I think it does have to do, they're just too damn big, for the right movements of somebody to play one of these sports, which, baseball, most of the time the people are jacked, so it doesn't really work for baseball. But like, I know for golf, it's definitely like that.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of like just really jacked guys on the PGA Tour.
Yep.
Like, there's some guys that are in good shape now, and they do work out, but they're not jacked.
Mm-hmm. They're not bench pressing 350 or 400.
No.
Trying to take somebody's head off on the football field.
No. But they're training, for different things. So
it's a different, it's a different body. You're training so many different things with each sport. Like, a lot of basketball players don't have giant biceps like what a football player would because they want the extra muscle.
They want speed too. You get more muscle mass, the less.
Yep. That's why whenever you see most basketball players, their legs are like that big around.
KD.
and it's so crazy how high they jump with like little to no calves.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, I think that as far as like top tier athletes, I think basketball is the hardest to get like top tier in.
Yes, basketball is for sure the hardest because what is there like 400 people in the league,
Yeah.
something like that, and there's only 7, 8, 9 spots on a team.
Yeah, and then how many of those are actually studs?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that basketball is just it's almost impossible.
Have you ever sat back and thought about the different tiers there are with like professional athletes? So like there was a guy, I forget what his name was, but he was like a 7th or 8th man, like off the bench. Won a title, I think, with the Celtics or somebody. This has been several years ago. But there's a lot of people that were like talking shit to him. He was like a 6'8", 6'9" white guy.
Brian
And-
Scalabrine.
Yes, and he made the comment, and he called out a bunch of people. There was some previous Division I basketball players, and his thing was, okay, I'm in the NBA. I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me. And, I mean, just mop the floor with all these guys. And they weren't no slouches.
No,
These were Division I athletes.
Yeah.
And he just worked them.
Yeah.
There's so many different tiers to, like, a LeBron James compared to everybody else, you know.
The difference in between a professional and a college player is just immense. It's like 1% of people who play college sports go on to play professionally.
I think it's less than that.
It's such a small number.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go from high school to college is a small number too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you're more likely to win the damn lottery than you are to be a all-star in the NBA.
And when you break it down, this is going to kind of bring back to our point. When you start breaking it down that way, as you get older, the percentages and what it takes to get to the next level. I mean, you start breaking it down even to the little league. Why do some parents act like it's the end of the world for like their kids if they have a bad game and I know it has to do with a lot of money that they're putting into it, but do you really think that MLB baseball players, they get paid a lot of money to hit the ball 3 out of 10 times?
Yeah.
If you start breaking it down and looking at statistics, okay, I go 0 for 4 this game, but I threw a no-hitter pitching, but you're going to be pissed off at me for going 0 for 4 at the plate. It's like it's getting to a point where even if your kid has a good game or a bad game, like it's getting to the point for parents where it's just still not enough. I'm not saying all parents, but I have personally seen, if your kid is not performing the way that the parents feel like he should be, there's just so much pressure on a kid because, I mean, hell, that's a whole car ride. That's the mood on the car ride home. You're going to get your ass chewed.
Yeah, I think that people have a hard time seeing the big perspective of things. You do kind of get in your own world, and that game does mean the world to you. So it does. People get too wrapped up in that, and I'm guilty of it too because I don't like to lose.
Every parent has done it.
Nobody likes to lose, especially when you put all that effort into it. But I think we do need to do something more as a society to maybe get away from that so much because it's being detrimental to the kids.
Because it's not just giving your kid constructive criticism on what they did to the game. Like if Little League Baseball is affecting your home life,
Yes.
there's a problem.
Exactly.
There's studies that show Little League Baseball can even destroy marriages.
Oh,
Like, who would have thought?
I would have thought for sure.
I mean, you got, there's, I don't see a reason why a sporting event should effectively ruin a relationship between a parent and their kid or the parents themselves, because at some point they're going to come to a head on why the hell are we spending this amount of money? There's no family time. We don't have vacations because we're going to play baseball.
Yeah, a lot of
I don't know where the divide is and what happened to it because, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm as competitive as it comes, but I'm damn sure not going to let a baseball tournament get in the way of my marriage if I ever get married.
So what I think has gone wrong with youth sports from when we were younger is when we were younger, it was youth sports was about development.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to win, but you're about developing skills. And even in middle school too, you really, when you hit high school, it's like, all right, well, this is starting to get a little serious now. We're best of the best type of deal. And you're going to have to work your ass off, or there's going to be somebody else that's here. So you're going to have to put in the time. But the youth sports were more to, now it's like they're focused way too much on winning. And I think the travel baseball has made that just like a sickness. And we need to focus more on development because, like we said, not everybody's going to play varsity when they get to high school. Not everybody's going to go play in college. The chances of that happening are pretty small. So, like, the real purpose of the sport is turning boys into young men, turning young men into men. And then, turning into leaders one day in whatever field they get into. And it's the lessons you learn in sports from that is the benefit. It's not the winning. It's the lessons you learn from it. So we have to get back more to I think that. And I will say for our area, we probably got it maybe better than most. Because I feel like the organizations I've been involved with and stuff, there has been a focus on development, and winning is great if we do it, but if not, trying to turn these kids into good young men. And I feel like we've done that. Like I feel proud of what we have done, turning them into young men.
Do you think there's organizations out there do you think there's some organizations out there that are a detriment to some kids' health? And when I say health, I mean they're overpitched or they're catching way too much on a hot day. Do you think there's any of that going on out there?
I know it is. I've seen it multiple times. Yeah, I mean, even if you look at, watch your Little League World Series from 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and see how many of them guys are playing in MLB. Some of them, but a very, very small percentage of them. Because if you're throwing 80 when you're 12 years old, is your arm going to last till you're 25, 26 years old?
Depending on how it's used.
Depending on how it's used. That's what I'm saying. If it's overpitched, an arm can't handle that. And when you're playing, 25 tournaments a year, there's no way you can't be overpitched or overworked.
Yeah, what do you think happened from, like, we're going to throw it back to, okay, so Bob Gibson back in the day. He would come out on the mound and pitch anytime, anywhere. What do you think happened between the people back then that used to pitch 3 or 4 times a week and throwing lots of pitches to now where it seems like kids' arms are so they're not as tough? And I'm not saying it like the kids mentally aren't, but their arms just aren't in the shape that it was back. And I've had conversations with people on this, and I don't know what they did back then. They were obviously built different, because if you throw, whenever I was in high school, right after I got out of high school, they made some pitching changes, like pitch counts in high school. I remember my freshman year, I threw like 115 pitches one game, and obviously went and ran my ass off afterwards to get that acid out of your arm. But, dude, you throw 115 pitches in a game, your arm is not great.
No.
Like, you would go to pick up your cup of water and couldn't even lift it up. But I never had any issues, like, as far as never having to have a Tommy John surgery, which is getting insane right now in the game. I mean, Garrett Cole, which is the Yankees ace, this is like his second or third time having Tommy John, and he's getting paid like $20 million a year to pitch, and now he's out the whole season.
Yeah, I think if you go back and you look at velocity over the years too, like it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster.
That's
and faster
what it's all about
time.
now.
And I think it's just people are pushing themselves too far. Everybody's worried about what your velo is and not worried about if you hang that curveball. It's like, I mean, look at like Greg Maddux, hit the way he used to pitch. He was, a locator. He had a lot of movement to his fastball, and he could locate, and that's what he was worried about doing.
And he was throwing high 80s, touching low 90s.
Yeah, and they don't do that. I mean, people are always just so worried about velo now. If you can't throw 95, you're not going anywhere.
It is all about velocity. That's what it's all about. Even whenever you go to like a showcase and they're watching you, it's all about, even if you're on the infield, they're looking at how fast you throw the ball across the infield.
Across the field,
everything. Yeah. Absolutely everything's about velocity. I'm glad you brought that up.
And it's not just pitchers, like you're saying. It's fielders, too.
I mean, they're looking at your swing speed,
Yep.
everything. Your reaction time, a catcher's pop time. I mean, everything's just fast, fast, fast.
They've got the training's better, the coaching's better, the understanding of different techniques and stuff to gain speed and do speed drills and stuff. That stuff has gotten better, so they have gotten faster, but the human body hasn't changed.
They haven't figured out how can you keep it sustainable.
I don't know if you can.
I'm at the point now where I think 105, 106 is the fastest any human can throw the ball, because that's what Chapman, the Cuban guy. Aroldis Chapman, that's what he was throwing, and he is like built like a freaking, I mean, he's a freak.
Yeah.
And 105, 106, I mean, whenever he comes in the game, I mean, look out. I can't imagine taking that. I took 88 off the ribs. I can't imagine 105 to the dome. That'd kill somebody.
Yeah.
And the bad thing is, if somebody hits that ball, it's coming back 115, 120 mile an hour.
Exactly.
And that's another thing, with the velocity, as a pitcher, that some bitch is going to be coming back quicker than what you throw it.
And a lot of, the youth softball teams and stuff, they're all, the infield wears masks and stuff now. Do you think something like that is going to happen for youth baseball?
No.
Do you think it should?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
I would be okay with the pitcher having it.
Yeah, that could prevent a lot. I've seen a lot of kids get hit in the head
I have
on line
too.
drive.
And
I was never hit in the head, but I got hit in the shin one time, and it looked like I had a softball on my leg. Like, it was awful.
Colt took one straight to the belly this year. Like, he was hit hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it dropped him. He threw over to first, but he got hit hard.
Yep.
And I was like, if that would have hit him in the face, it would have really messed him up bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think I would probably, if there was a vote on it, I'd vote yes for the pitchers to have masks.
There's no way in hell that I would have ever wanted a mask.
I would have not worn one if
my Lord.
But as a parent with
Mm-hmm.
my kid,
Yep.
like, I would be fine with it. I would make him do it. But if I had the choice when I was a kid, hell no, I wouldn't want one.
And a lot of the factor is that women do wear the mask, and it's not because it's girl. It's because their ball is so big, like that. It's half somebody's face.
They're closer to,
and they're closer. So I mean, for them, yes, 100%. If you feel like you need to wear a mask, you need to be wearing a mask. Now, the next thing is going to be like hitting. With these helmets. I know it's not quite as bad in youth sports, but like in the MLB, I mean, they have a rule that you got to wear the deal that'll cover like this part of your chin and mouth, because if it does get up and in, at least you have a little something that they were catching them right here on the inside of their helmet. So they do have that. But as far as the equipment and stuff being used, I think the game's probably as safe as it's ever been at this point. However, Little League Baseball, there is so much shit these kids wear in the games. What's up with these oven mitts, sliding sleeves? And, I mean, we got Evo Shield, shin guards, foot guards, elbow guards. What in the hell?
shit drives me insane.
I have never
I hate it so
seen-
much. These damn sliding mitts are, oh my God. They want to talk about speeding the game up, and then you put sliding mitts out there for the kids to use. Makes no sense at all. And I don't remember ever seeing one of the plays where I was like, man, if he would have had a sliding mitt on, he wouldn't have got hurt right there. It's just so, it's such a small percentage. And every time your kid will walk up there, it's all about making money is what these big companies are like, hey, we'll start making these and putting some cool ice cream cone drips on them and shit, and kids will buy them like crazy because they think they look cool, and then that's all they care about.
What's the kids?
Then
What's the cool kids say now? They feel like they got some more Riz wearing all
that
this shit.
But they'll hit, and then they'll get a single or walked or whatever. They get all at first base, and it's like, let's stop the game for 30 fucking seconds while this kid takes all of his shit off.
It's not.
And then the first base coach is sitting over there with this pile of shit in his arms, and his back pockets are full. And it's like, what is going on? For nothing. It is just a waste of time.
I don't understand it at all. I understand, you want to throw on a little chain or something.
I'm fine with having your own swagger, but
there's a reason that professionals wear this stuff. It's because they're seeing 90 to 100 mile an hour fastballs.
yeah.
They're not seeing 40, 50, pooping it in there, They wear it on the base paths because, like the sliding mitts, because, whenever they're sliding into a bag, especially like second base, the ball can get there or it's going to get stepped on. But there's still not a lot of people that wear them.
Yeah, and if
you look at like videos or go watch games of Little League kids, damn near, I would say 75% of kids got them. Whenever I went to Lake of the Ozarks, I've never seen so many oven mitts before in my life. It pissed me off.
It's aggravating as hell. Trust me.
I just don't get it.
I don't either. And like with our kids, we'd kind of made an agreement. No more mitts, like sliding mitts. Like this is ridiculous.
Did some of your else kids have them?
So none of our kids had them, but
they were talking about
one of the kids got an actual oven mitt, not a sliding mitt, but an actual oven mitt, just as a joke to kind of make fun of the other teams because we thought it was stupid.
Yeah.
And us as coaches were like, no, this is stupid. We're not holding your shit for 30 minutes while we're up there hitting or whatever. It's just trying to get more money for Rawlings or whoever the hell is making them nowadays.
It's working.
They're selling them because they're fucking everywhere.
They are literally everywhere. Like, even if you're scrolling on Facebook or something, see something about Little League, the kids all got them. You hit a stand-up double. Your coach has to walk out there so they can get their oven mitt on, and they may not even steal a base. Like, I'm a firm believer, if you aren't stealing bases, you don't need an oven mitt.
You know how many stolen bases there hasn't been because the kids taking their shit off at first base? You know how pissed off I would be as a coach? Like, oh, it's just aggravating.
I mean, the kids nowadays, they've got all the drip you could possibly put on somebody. Like, you couldn't get another piece of clothing or equipment on somebody for a lot of these kids.
Yeah, and I'm fine with everybody having their own style. Like, if you want to be your own person and have your own shit, then I get it. But I don't think your shit should have to affect my day.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just so, and I know it's all about the style and to look cool. Like, whenever we were growing up, the cool thing was like the braided necklaces that matched your jersey color and all that other stuff. And then along came the digital camo, arm throwing sleeves.
I know, like, I'm a little bit older than you, even not by a lot, but I don't know, like what, 6-7 years or something. But even just in that time, like my generation, you wore whatever everybody else was wearing. Everybody looked the same. If you wanted to, like, sometimes in basketball would wear like the little, sleeved, tight, whatever they're called.
Yep.
But we'd want to wear them, and the coach would be like, No, this is your uniform. This is what you're wearing. Everybody's going to look the same. We're one team.
And that's all the way down to the shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not very
We all
many
had
teams.
the same shoes when I was in high school. Everybody had the same shoes, same shorts, same shirt. No, if the tight pants, spandex pants that you wear, you can't have them hanging out the bottom because then they'd look different. Like, that was a thing then. Now it's like everybody wants to have their own little style, and I'm fine with that. If you want to do your own thing and have your little own deal, that's fine with me.
The thing about it is, okay, so if you're going to go with the, like, look good, feel good, you better play good.
Yeah.
Because if you're out there and you ain't doing shit and you're running around with this oven mitt or these bright pink shoes to be different from everybody, and you ain't dropping 20 in a game, you're going to have to get with the program, dude. Like, that's just kind of the way I see it. Like, if you got somebody that's, yeah, they're pretty damn good, we're just going to kind of let him, not showing favoritism, but, you know, if you got a gamer on your team, he's going to get by with a lot more shit than somebody that
for
ain't.
sure. You're going to put up with more stuff from somebody who can win. I mean, that's just human nature.
I just think it's getting out of control with, and that's a part of the whole travel ball league. I love a lot of stuff about it, but it's that stuff that makes it look ignorant in an aspect.
It's gotten out of hand. It's just there's been too much emphasis put on the winning and the money side of it. I don't know. I just think that we need to do better, maybe with our local programs, and I don't know what exactly we could do, or probably it would be being done, but try to get more of these kids out here playing so we can have local leagues again to develop kids. Because, I mean, if you think about it, even a lot of times your kids who are, you know, a stud in 3rd, 4th grade, that's not necessarily who's going to be leading your varsity team. Mm-hmm. You know, so if those other kids aren't being developed or not even starting to play, then you're losing out on a lot of talent there too.
I want to talk about some positives of travel ball, or even you know, your rec league. So obviously right now there's an obese problem in the United States, along with a lot of other countries. I think getting involved in youth sports can kind of help that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to allow
Diet
you
too.
to have a healthier body weight.
We got to do something about the diet to these kids too in schools, and not necessarily in schools as much, but
Well,
at
the
home.
foods are just so bad.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where it's cheaper to buy the junk food than what it is to buy an actual
To
nutritional
eat healthy
meal.
is so much more expensive.
It is.
And you can't. It's so hard to go out somewhere and eat.
That's healthy. That's actually healthy for you.
Yeah,
Everything's fried.
everything.
So I really like the aspect of, you know, it can keep someone active and have a healthier lifestyle. You know, it does kind of set, you know, like as a coach, you know, I was always one to ask, you know, kind of what's your goals, you know, to kids, like, you know, what are you wanting out of this? It kind of gets the kid developed that, you know, if you do put a certain amount of time in on something and you try to the best of your ability, that what somebody's trying to teach you, you can potentially reach a goal. So I think that's another positive thing out of the travel ball league.
I think that just from my coaching experience and being on the teams and stuff, I will say one thing that we probably need to do better at is the one-on-one stuff with the parents and the kids. I think we need to do more meetings individually with parents and kids, and kind of touch base on where your kid's at, what they need to be working on, and be a little bit more transparent that way. I think it could maybe knock down on some of the arguments or some of the bad feelings throughout the season when your kid isn't going to play at time, or you know, maybe he is getting more of an opportunity. It kind of explains some stuff a little bit better.
Because you're exactly right, because it does not matter if you make that loud and clear the first day when people come in. Okay, you got your team. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, not everybody's going to get the same amount of playing time. I feel like every coach probably says that to parents and kids the first day that everybody walks in. Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be that argument throughout the year. It doesn't matter if you made it crystal clear. Like, if you tell them straight, your kid's probably not going to get as much playing time as Jimmy.
Yeah.
And it does not matter if you make that loud and clear. But
and if you're out there spending $5,000
back to
on
the financial side of it,
Yeah.
they have I'd like to see my kid play at least a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and they have that argument.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to get money out of them and you accept them on the team and you get money out of them, okay, we better see a little bit of field time.
Exactly.
So they do have that argument. I've always kind of been, well, you need to just learn to accept it that your kid just isn't as good as what the other kids and can't fill the position, you know, for the better part of the team. But when you start getting into some of these numbers, it's like, you know, if I spend $5,000, hell, I'd like to see my kid hit the field a little bit.
I would like to know, like, it makes me think, like, compared to when we were kids, or, you know, when the economy was a little bit better and living expenses were a little bit easier, was the businesses in your local area, a little bit more wealthy to where they had more money to spend on your local leagues, to where now maybe there isn't. I mean, there's not anybody around here who's going to tell me that our community has the same sense of community that was 20, 30 years ago.
You're exactly
It is
right.
not there. The sense of community is not there like it used to be. And when there is that sense of community, you can get your local businesses and stuff to donate to the stuff like that a little bit easier. So that could play some effect on why our local leagues isn't, what it is. You get a lot of shitty fields, and if they had more money to invest in better fields, better coaching, better equipment, maybe it would draw kids to your local leagues a little bit better.
Yeah, the sense of community is not what it used to be when we were
No.
kids. You used to go out and run around and play. You knew your neighbors. Nowadays, there's people moving into different communities where you don't even talk to them, or you wave at them a few times, say hi, but there's no, hey, you want to come over for a beer when we sit out here and bullshit on the back deck anymore. That's not in a lot of places. You still have it.
No, and
Some places
we're way more fortunate than most places because we are a small community.
Yep.
I mean, we're from the size community. When I pass a truck on Main Street and I don't know who it is, I'm like, who the hell was that? Like, everybody.
Yeah, we're those people. But yeah, it's. I don't know where travel ball is gonna get to. I'm anxious to see where it goes in the next 5 to 10 years, because in the past 10 to 15 years, it has gone off the deep end. And by all means possible, it has gone off the deep end with the amount of money parents are paying, the amount of time kids are involved in each sport or that sport alone, the amount of travel, all of this, and it's going to lead to some kids really loving it. There's going to lead to some kids getting burned out. It's going to lead to potential trouble in marriages. But it's like that with anything too. I keep bringing up, the reason I brought up the marriage deal is because I have seen articles that, the guy and the gal has got into it, and I've seen a lot of Reddit posts. I've seen a lot of Google posts, and there was a lady on TikTok that had like 160-something thousand likes on it, that she said that her husband and her got into it so bad because there was no intimate time. There was no family time. It was only baseball.
Yep.
All year long. There was no break. And she said that finally she just told him if they don't cut back on it and kind of get it figured out together, that she was done. I think in her case, they were able to work it out, but it can get to that point if you're not careful.
No, for sure. I've seen it happen.
Well, because as parents, you want your kids to have so many opportunities. You want them to have more opportunities than what you had growing up. That's what most parents want for their kids.
Well,
and if you don't watch out, it can get to that point where you have all this money and time invested. You aren't thinking about anybody else. Maybe you got a brother and sister that you haven't seen. You're canceling family vacations. We can't make it to that. We got ball game. You really got to be careful with that.
If you played sports, throughout your young life, as a dad and a coach and parent and everything, you probably think, well, if I would have had the right coaching, or if I would have done this with myself different, I didn't know at the time, how good could I have been? So then you want to project that on your kid is what happens. And maybe that isn't what they want.
Yeah, and how many kids out there don't really want to do something, but mom or dad's like, well, we've already paid this money, you're doing it.
Exactly. And there is some of that,
I'm not saying that's everybody.
It's definitely not, because
definitely out there.
Most of the kids that we coach and stuff, those boys wanted to be there.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have, our practices were a lot of times hour and a half. We'd be there for 2.5 hours.
Well,
Kids were still working out.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
That is exactly what you want if you're a coach.
That's what, we've been pretty fortunate. Our boy, like I said, the kids that we've been around in this area, they're hungry. Like they want to better themselves. And if you have that feeling at 9, 10 years old about baseball, you're going to have that feeling when you're 26 years old starting a career.
Exactly. It's all about the work ethic. It's all about driving what back to the goals thing. They see a progression with what they can do in a sport. They're going to immediately translate that to whether it's schoolwork. And there's been studies, and we'll bring in the schoolwork, that there's studies that playing a sport can actually make you a better student because you have to learn all these different traits, and it can then translate to schoolwork and being able to get it done, keeping you're holding yourself accountable.
I'll say before you get into that, if you could pick one thing that you would say will make you more money and more successful whenever you get out and into the workforce or start a business, what do you think one of the most important traits is? To me,
I think there's so many, but
to me, it's being able to communicate and talk to people. If you can talk to people and people like you, you're going to do great in business.
And that just
because that's what it's all about.
And that comes
most
down
of the
to
time.
character.
Owning and running a business is 90% about relationships, because it doesn't matter what product you sell, what you do, most people can do it. There's a competition out there nowadays.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the only pony show in town. So your business relies off relationships. And to build relationships, you got to be able to communicate and you got to be likable. And sports teach you that. Sports teach you how to communicate with people, how to be a leader.
Yep.
How to deal with pressure, how to stay calm.
There's so many traits that you learn in sports that can translate to every aspect of your life.
Exactly. They are important. They're very important. We've shit on a lot of things about it today, and there's some bad traits that we need to work on like anything.
But we've also said a lot of good about it. I mean, we're not both sitting up here just shitting on travel baseball. I feel like it's gotten a little crazy, for sure. I think a lot of people would agree with me, even people that are involved in it on a day-to-day basis. I still think that the travel ball is great for a lot of kids in it, or most kids in it, because it does teach you that you get that competitive nature, that competitive drive, because you're not just facing teams that you're going to 10 run. You're facing kids that are better than you. Yeah. And if you're a competitor, you want to play against kids better than you, because then therefore it's going to lift your game. It's going to make you better. Yeah. It's gonna expose you pretty damn quick on what you need to figure out.
I've always said, if you're not losing, then you're not gaining anything. You have to lose. So you learn way more from losing than you ever do from winning. And if you're not losing, you're not playing good enough competition.
Exactly.
Oh, it's a little bit.
We went on
a rant there.
Damn near hour and a half tangent on Little League baseball, travel ball.
See, even got us worked up talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had talks about it before. We've talked about it. We've both been a part of it. Me playing, and you with your son, who's literally right smack dab in the middle of it right now. Right in the middle of it. So I would kind of like to know some of his. I know we talked about it, but I want to hear some of his opinions on it.
So like, I asked him, I was like, what are some good things and what are some bad things about it you like?
All right. Yeah, once you get past that hour mark, you got to stop and take a break every now and again. But we were getting ready to jump in. You talked to your son and kind of asked him what he thought about, and he gave his opinion. And your son, I'm sure, just judging by the way that he talks about everything else, he's gonna have a pretty blunt and honest opinion on kind of how he feels with the whole travel ball.
Yeah, so I just kind of asked him what are some pros and cons to it, and so I'll go over. Let's go over the cons first to kind of get that out of the way. So he said one of the bad things is about youth sports is the chance of getting injured, or getting hurt, getting into disagreements, having arguments or fights with parents or coaches. He didn't say that exactly, but just having arguments, disagreements. I see this as a coach with a lot of kids too, is the pressure and the fear of messing up. Being afraid to fail. I tell our boys all the time, do not play being afraid to fail. That you will never have success if you look at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, because baseball, like I said, if you go to the plate and 7 times out of 10, you don't do anything, but the other 3 times you are, if you bat 300, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. If you get up there in the batter's box and you're sitting back there and you're thinking, please be a ball, please be a ball, please be a ball, trying to get that walk to first base, you're never going to have – you got to get up there with the attitude of you're looking for that right pitch.
If you're going to the plate and you have the attitude of – if you have any doubt really in your mind, and that's what a lot of baseball – I mean, you hear about people getting into slumps. Most of the time it's a mental block that you have, and you have that in every sport. But if you're going to the plate afraid of what the outcome is going to be, you're not going to have any success. No. And as a kid, it is so hard to juggle that because you have so much riding on your shoulders, even if you're the most laid-back parent or not. These kids, if they're on travel teams, there is a lot of pressure that doesn't get talked about enough that they've got to live up to an expectation, whether if you're a parent, setting it for them, you have a lot that's
they're afraid,
leaning on you.
They're afraid of getting that ass eaten all the way home.
And
if they mess up.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Another thing he said was having the pressure of leading a team, or, when you're pitching, you got the other 8 guys sitting there counting on what you're doing. You have the pressure of them too. So kind of another pressure type deal. Which is good, which is not always a bad thing, but can be too much of a thing too. You don't want to affect you psychologically. And then he said having to travel, to practices and practicing so often, because when you're playing travel baseball, you're going to be practicing 2 or 3 days a week and then having games and stuff too. So it doesn't leave a lot of time for other stuff. So it just kind of becomes their life. And after a while, like what I was saying, where he went, we went a year straight there for a while. It's been a couple years, but we went a year straight of playing or training in baseball. And then after that, I'm like, all right, we've took it too far. We're going to have to dial it back. Your arm needs a break. You need a break. We're just going to step away. And we have, and now we take breaks and stuff. So that's very important. But I'll kind of go over some pros that he said, some good things about it. He said you get to meet new people, especially with this travel ball thing where you go into different areas and stuff.
And jumping back to like having to travel. So in our rural area, you got to drive 45 minutes one way to get to a practice. Yeah, so it's not like it's just right down the street or anything like that. Whenever you start doing the travel ball, like the practices a couple days a week, like you're talking about, that's an hour and a half every day or each day that you go to practice that you got to drive to get to the facility.
Yeah. So his team, it's almost an hour from our house to where we practice and stuff at. It's almost an hour to get there. That's 2 hours, worth of travel every time we go to practice.
Yeah. So I mean, to go to that practice, so you got an hour there, then you probably got an hour and a half, 2 hour practice, and then it's another hour drive home. You're looking at 4 to 5 hours.
There's your
twice
night.
A week.
There's your night. Yeah.
That's the whole day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But like I said, you get to meet new people. That's cool, and that is another one of them social things I was talking about. That makes you better at communicating. If you can meet new people and introduce yourself, and you're comfortable, it's going to make them feel comfortable. Leads to more success in the workforce. You get more athletic. You get to hang out with your friends. Big bonus. I mean, that's pretty cool.
This should be on every kid's
list.
And
this is all his kind of talking. And he said the more you practice, the better you get. So it teaches you that putting work into something, you kind of have some success from it. You get to see new places and go on trips. Stay in better shape. He said it helps you to build your confidence whenever, and he said to me, whenever, you do go out there and you perform well, it makes you feel good about yourself, and it builds your confidence up for the next time. And I mean, great bonus to sports. And then we was talking after. I was like, "Well, you forgot about the most important part of why you play the game. You play the game because it's fucking fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the whole point of playing sports. You know, you learn these things are bonuses, but you play because you enjoy it. It's fun." And he was like, "Oh yeah, you're right." And I'm like, "Why? This is a travel sports thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that should be the first thing that pops in his mind, and it wasn't.
Yep.
And that, I mean, we definitely do have a lot of fun. He loves it. You know, it's not something that I had to drag him to practices and stuff. Like he likes to go. He enjoys it. But it has gotten to this mode where sports has been kind of his life. So when you do it every single day, you kind of forget about that part of why you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely something I need to do a better job of. All parents need to do a better job of. All coaches need to do a better job of. You have to make it first about having fun. I don't know.
It's got to be enjoyable.
It has to be fun. And we've all had them coaches that has made it not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who's played sports much have had the coaches where they have made it like it's a job, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, one person can burn a kid out of a sport forever, and you see it. You probably don't see it at a little league level like you do at a high school level, because the kids are older and they're like, you know what, I don't have to deal with this shit. I don't have to do this. And there's been a lot of coaches, even local areas around us, that there's been a lot of kids that just, I'm not playing. They played their whole life, played 15 years. I'm not going to play.
We've seen some stuff happen locally in our, local sports teams here that kids have not played, or they've gone halfway through the season and half the team quit, or the whole team quit. I mean, I know they just had an issue in Bowling Green where the whole cheerleading squad quit.
Yeah. Before a sectional football game.
Yeah. The whole squad quit. And then they didn't have a cheerleading squad for basketball season.
The first time, and I forget how long they said. And
it's embarrassing as a school, as a school in, our local area. It is. I know when I go to the games and you see all these teams got the cheerleading squads and stuff, and then we're sitting over there with nothing. It's like, that's not a good look.
And you don't get all the details as to what happened on it and all that stuff.
I know there's been some problems with the basketball team too, but having the same problems.
Past couple of years, there's been a lot of kids that haven't came out and played due to a coach. And so saying that, there is a fine line between a coach making it absolutely miserable for kids and kids and parents thinking they know more than what the coach, so they don't respect them. Because there is a respect factor, and as a parent, if you're telling your kid that, okay, so-and-so doesn't know what the heck they're talking about, we don't have any respect for them, what's the kid then going to do? He's not going to have any respect for him either. So there's a fine line between a coach ruining a sport for somebody and a coach maybe having a different opinion than parents.
You got to show respect even maybe if you don't have it. I mean, everybody deals with that, in their jobs and in everyday life. So you kind of got to... You got to learn how to do that.
Yeah,
not everybody you're going to have in your life is going to want the best interest for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right.
But it is. I mean, there's so many good things that comes out of sports. It's just like anything. There's always ways to get better. And I think we've shifted the needle just a little bit too far. I think it's time to kind of shift it back a little bit.
Why do you think? This was my thought from earlier that went away. Why do you think there's such a shortage right now of umpires and people who will officiate, umpires for baseball and then officiating for basketball? What do you think the number one problem is?
Parents, the people in the stands.
And why, as a society,
and the coaches bitching about calls?
And why, as a society, can't we figure out why that's a problem?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is.
I've been
it's
asked,
way more of an issue now than it used to be. That's very apparent because you're right. You can't hardly get anybody to ump nowadays or to ref. They struggle with it all the time. I know I'm friends with Matt Chance, who is the AD down here in Bowling Green, and they struggle with getting refs and stuff all the time.
and they're paying refs a lot of money.
They make decent
to
money.
come
If you
in.
want to go ref now, it's not
You can make a
bad
couple
money.
$100 a night.
Yeah. These little leagues around here, it's almost impossible for them to find enough refs to fill all their spots or umps.
I've been asked to officiate and umpire both for basketball and baseball. And I call games on the local radio station for the high school basketball teams in the area. The amount of stuff, I'm not even going to call it stuff, the amount of shit I hear from the stands, and granted, I have a headset on listening to the radio broadcast and everything. The amount of complete, I'm going to watch what I say, but the amount of stuff that I hear that makes absolutely no sense, and if you know anything about sports, especially like basketball, where I do a lot of the calling, like there is so much shit that gets said that doesn't even make sense, even if you have even just a little bit of basketball IQ.
Yeah, everybody's a professional nowadays.
And those are, a lot of them are the people that are telling the coach that he has no idea or she has no idea what they're doing. And telling the referee, well, you're blind. That was obviously a foul, or that wasn't a foul, or that was a travel. So, like, I hear so many things from the stands. I just kind of look over and I'm looking around like, you're seriously yelling that, and believe it wholeheartedly that you're right.
So the refs have to deal with, they have to balance, the helping kids out and the amount of money they make off reffing. And then on the other hand, it's the how much shit you got to deal with to be able to do it. So when one of those outweighs the other is when we have shortages like we have right now. So you either got to pay more money or we're going to have to fix some of the shit as a society.
I told one of the guys that tried to get me involved in the officiating for basketball that I would hand out technicals to way more people than anybody. Nobody would like me because I wouldn't listen to the shit that gets said.
I think that they need to do more about it. Kick more people out of games, give them more technicals. If you have issues, and it just sets precedent for the next time when they come there. They're like, oh, shit, I better watch what I say because I'll get kicked out.
Or I'm going to be suspended or I'm not going to be able to go to a few games. And you're going to be missing out on your kids, what's left of their high school career because you decided to argue with a ref or yell something stupid.
Yeah, and you get wrapped up in sports, and it's easy to take it too far and say some stuff you shouldn't say to a ref. I mean, I've done it. Most everybody's done it that's coached or played much, but it's definitely a problem.
And to me, it's one thing if you know what you're talking about and you're arguing or asking a question to umpire, why he called it that way. It's a whole nother thing to have no idea what the fuck you're talking about and arguing with a referee or umpire about why they call it that way. There's a fine line between having a conversation with somebody and just blatantly yelling stupid stuff. And I feel like as a society, you look on social media, there's a lot of people that type a lot of stupid stuff.
Whoever's the loudest and says the most obscene shit gets all the attention.
Why do you think Stephen A. Smith's so popular on?
Oh, I hate that dude.
Online because he's loud and he says a lot of.
I know, like with our local Corey League, they have got to the point where they have really struggled to find umps, and now they've got to where the only people that will do it is the high school kids because. They'll do it for a little bit of money where most people won't.
Well, and
so they're getting high school kids that don't know what the hell they're doing and don't know the games and stuff. And then it's just like made that situation even magnetized more.
Because now you've got 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids out there umpiring games because you can't find anybody, and they've probably been begged to come umpire, and then you've got Jimmy on this team and Susie on the other team that are flat ripping his ass because he maybe made a mistake and made a bad call, and nobody wants to come back and deal with that.
What I think they should do is, I think that they should get rid of having 2 umpires at the Little League games. Quit trying to have 2 umpires at the Little League games. Have 1 umpire and have him call strikes and balls from behind the pitcher. Then you can see the base pads. They can call strikes and balls from back there. It's been done. I've seen them do it. We've played like that before, and it's worked out just fine. I would rather have 1 good ref than 2 kind of
Here we go. I have seen games where catchers miss a ball and the umpires or the coaches are picking up the balls from behind the catcher when they miss it because they don't have enough drive to go get the ball and throw it back. I have seen games like that in the local league, and I watched for an inning and I left. I was like, if you can't make an effort to get off your ass to go get the ball to throw it back to the pitcher, what do we do? Why are you even catching?
Need to be here, yeah.
I don't know about the one umpire, but why can't we as a society get to the point where somebody is donating their time for your kid to be here so this game can play with an umpire, and you're going to sit there and bitch about balls and strikes when it's a 17, 18-year-old kid just trying to make a little extra money for gas in the summertime? It's like, what in God's name is... what as a society, where are we going to go with this?
get wrapped up in the winning, man. We got to concentrate more on development. But you see it almost every game.
It's awful. And, you feel bad for the kids that are going out. And that's what it's a lot of, like, the umpires. Yeah, they might be getting paid $20, $25 to listen to the bullshit. That ain't enough money for me.
That's why the high school kids are doing it, because the adults won't put up with that shit. Nobody will do it.
And it's just it's constant bitching at the umpires. And, coaches, like local, there's a lot of people that don't want to coach for some of the teams around here because their fans are notorious for being absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Why would anybody want to come into that atmosphere?
No, one bad parent can ruin it for the whole team.
100%. Something's got to change with this because this is, it's getting, it's gone too far.
I think if they would just, I don't want to say do their job, but if they would kick more people out, team more people up, set a precedent that this is how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, then you get your umpire's license and you get out here and you do it, or you can sit over there and be quiet. And, if something really bad happens and it's a terrible call or something, let the head coach deal with it if they want to deal with it. But
a faculty or an athletic director should not have to come over to the stands to tell you need to calm down. If you're saying something that blatant that the referee is hearing you and you've been on it, because referees put up with a lot more than what they should.
They do.
And if you're constantly nagging at them, an athletic director should not have to come over and tell you you're going to have to be a little bit more quiet. The referee just said that you're almost out of here.
Well, most of your refs around here.
That's embarrassing to me.
Most of your refs around here aren't doing it for the money anyway. They're doing it because they want to help the kids out and they enjoy, having a positive impact on the community and seeing the kids play and stuff. And that are the only ones that are left. Mm-hmm. But I think if they would just, like I said, kick some more people out, team some more people up, maybe they could get it to where stuff calms down and they could get maybe more people back into doing it again. Somebody's going to be a lot more less, apt to do it if they're not going to get yelled at every time they step on the court to ref a 9U game.
I agree. I agree. You have any more topics or anything else to hit on?
I don't think so.
We've gone almost 2 hours.
2 hours? Is it really?
Getting pretty close.
Yeah.
That was a lengthy one. There was a lot to talk about. We had something to say on that one.
Yeah, well, I've been immersed in this thing like the last 5 or 6 years. So
Yeah, I've been hearing
it's
a lot. I've been hearing a lot of the stuff from you,
it's a
and
big part of our life, and it's been one of the best parts of my life. It has been the best part of my life, and it probably will be. I mean, when your kids are growing up and you're did athletics and your kids loves athletics, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of enjoyment I've got out of it, and it's not just him. It's watching other kids too, and coaching other kids. It's been amazing. And your dad was the first person that he was the head coach of our baseball team, and he asked me to help, and that's kind of how I got my start. And I thank him immensely for that, because it's definitely made me a better person. It's taught me a lot. I've gotten as much out of it as I've gave the kids, I can guarantee you.
mm-hmm.
And we've had a great group. If you get a chance, we've talked about this stuff, get out there and help. Put in for coaching little league teams and umpiring and that kind of stuff. If you can have some kind of a effect on it, get out there and do it, because it's awesome. I love it. And even if you can't, then, or if you don't want to, maybe you don't have the time, donate some money to your local, organizations. Help out. Get these local teams and stuff going again.
Yep, couldn't have said it any better myself. But that's going to be a wrap for episode number 7 here. Something to Talk About podcast. We're probably going to be releasing some shorts on this, and then ultimately get the whole thing released out there. This is definitely going to hit home for a lot of people as baseball season is officially getting here. Workouts are starting, and it's getting ready to get hectic for all you parents out there, Kyle. And y'all are going to be traveling all over the place, and I'm going to get to see a lot of funny videos of umpires and parents getting into it on social media and all the craziness that comes along with it. But, as long as the kids are having fun and you're keeping it interesting for them, that's all that matters. And all you parents out there, you're not alone. Everybody knows exactly, I think most people probably know exactly what we've talked about today, that, they've seen it and experienced it themselves. So, yeah, this was a fun one. I'm glad we got to talk about this one, because there was a lot there's probably a lot more that we could cover that I don't really want to get into, because I don't know if a lot of people would like my opinion. But it's definitely getting a lot more popular out there, with the traveling aspect and going to different areas, seeing different teams. So it's really cool to see a lot of people getting out there and experiencing that, because a lot of people don't get to experience that, but a lot more people are getting involved with the traveling aspect and seeing the talent in other locations.
Yeah, I didn't like the when you were talking about the 14% drop in kids playing now. We got to fix that.
And I wonder if there's just people that can't afford it. They don't have access to it.
Very possible.
Because it's getting, like we were talking about some of them numbers, it's getting to be a money game for a lot of people, and a lot of people can't go out and buy these $300, I don't even know what bats are, $300-$400 bats, and and you don't have to do that. But I mean, the traveling, the cost, hotel stay, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. There's not a cheap way to do it.
There's not. But all right, well, that's going to be a wrap for us. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.